Hi, this is Ron Moorhead. You're listening to Hastings County Sasquatch.
Okay, welcome back to HCS, Hastings County Sasquatch with Chris and Daryl. We're speaking with Joe DeHOYOS from Beyond the Woodline podcast. We're going to speak to him today about, obviously, Sasquatch and some of the other paranormal experiences he's been having since a small child. The first question, I guess, would be, Joe, was Sasquatch on your radar before your first experience with Sasquatch, or did you already, start to read or see some TV shows about it before your first experience?
So when I was like a real little kid, man, I was maybe, I don't know, 7, 8 years old. We lived across the street from one of my father's co-workers. And this guy had so many stories of ghosts and paranormal, UFOs and aliens, right? And that was really my introduction. And you're talking about the late 70s, early 80s, where this guy got all this information I'll never know. But he had so many stories, and he would scare me and my brother with all these stories he would tell us. And we would run across the street, when it was dark. And so that was kind of my introduction to it. But my dad was really into like the whole Bigfoot thing too. And anytime a show would come on, like In Search of or Unsolved Mysteries or whatever, they were talking about Bigfoot, and he would call me over and, hey, look, this show's on. So we'd stay in there and we'd watch it all through elementary and middle school and even through high school. I would get any kind of book I could get my hands on, and that's what I would read. Mm-hmm. Then after high school, went to college for a couple of years, got married, had kids, kind of got out of it. But then right around 2000, internet was a big thing. So I started looking all that stuff up, and by 2012, I was in it. I was in the deep end at that point,
Yeah.
When I actually started going out investigating. My kids were older and I could take them out and stuff, I could use them for bait. So that was pretty cool,
So speaking of bait, did you ever gift? Did you ever do anything like that in your?
No, I don't do that. I don't, just because there's so much, unknown about gifting. Some people say it works, some people say it doesn't work, and you never know what you're actually gifting with, so unless people actually see it. And if you look on YouTube or even any other social media, different animals bring stuff to people all the time, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, crows do that, ravens.
Yeah, crows, squirrels, the possums even do it, so, domestic animals will do it. So, it's hard to really say a Bigfoot brought me this,
Yeah, well, we, with permission, at the last site, with their permission, we put out some Twix bars, and we put 2 different packages out. One was gone in the morning, except for the wrapper, but again, anything could have taken that, right?
Yeah, and I had a friend of mine, and I think at the time he was in South Carolina. He had a big jar of peanut butter, and he left it out by this creek, where it had known activity. And he came, I don't know, like a week later to pick it up, and the jar was still there. It looked full, it felt full, but when he opened it, there was like a big scoop, like someone took with a giant finger, scooped it out, So he said it was much bigger than his finger, and he's a pretty good sized guy. So I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I just don't know if it happens as much as people think that it might.
Yeah.
And me personally, I don't like to put out food for anything, because the next person that comes along might not
have anything.
Yeah. And, he could be asking for trouble.
I used to throw out scraps from the table, like on my property back home out in the woods. Yeah. But I stopped doing that because I realized the coyotes and the foxes were coming around the house too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's basically it. And, I saw my first UFO when, in Galveston, Texas, and I was fishing, and the gentleman I was with, this is probably close to 18 years ago. He was off to my right, maybe 40, 50 feet down to my right. And he was like, hey, Joe, look, what's that? And he points up, and we see this round craft. It's a craft. It's not an orb or light way up in the atmosphere or stars, satellite. It's a craft about 300 feet above our heads. And I tell everybody, I think a professional baseball player probably could have hit it with a baseball,
Yeah.
And it was just right above us, and it just slowly moved, and it was so smooth. There was no wobble to it. There was no noise, no lights. A few miles down the way, there's a small airfield, single engine aircraft can come in and land, the smaller ones.
Mm-hmm.
And you could hear them things buzzing when they come in. This thing was right above us, made no noise. And like I said, this was a craft. It wasn't, no doubt, it was a craft. And that was one of the freakiest things we had seen. And up until he passed away recently, he would always ask about that night.
Uh-huh.
And then later on, this is maybe 10, 12 years ago, when I was married, I lived in a house and we had a lot of paranormal activity in that place too. It was a pretty cool place to live at, actually.
So, was there messages? Like, did you hear
So one
voices
night,
or just
yeah,
stuff
one
moving?
night, well, we all saw shadow figures, or like I saw this gray, smoky figure walk across the living room floor, right? And it wasn't like a shadow against the wall. It was in the middle of the living room that walked across the floor, or the room, whatever you want to call it. I was sitting on the edge of the bed one day, and I was getting ready to go to work, and I felt somebody poke me in the ribs. You know how you guys are talking to each other, you might poke each other in the ribs, messing with each other. That's exactly what it felt like.
Yeah.
I mean, I got poked in the ribs. I felt somebody sit on the bed twice. I thought it was my dog. I had a big boxer at that time, and he's 75 pounds, and he wasn't allowed on the bed. And this is like the first week we moved in. We maybe were there 3 or 4 days, and I felt the bed go down. So I sat up. I was going to be like, get off the bed, but there was nobody there. And,
Uh-huh.
it happened again, a few days later, or a week later, and it happened again. And I walked out to the kitchen, and I just told my family, man, this place is haunted. And they were like, oh yeah, it is. Everyone was like, yeah, it is. And they all started telling me what they had experienced in that short time that we were there.
Wow.
That was pretty cool. And then, that's when I was involved in the Bigfoot stuff at that time. And, my oldest came out of her room, and she said, because she shared a bed with with my youngest, and I mean, she shared the room, so they had twin beds that were next to each other. But there was like a area you could walk in between them. And she said there was a dark shadow that walked between the beds, a dark figure. So she came out and got me. So at this point, I was like, I told my middle one, my son, I said, hey, go get my recorder that I use when I go out. We're gonna do an EVP session, right? So he goes in there by himself without asking me or even telling me. And he comes out, and he is white as a ghost. He's like, Dad, you got to hear this. He presses play, and he says, is there anybody here with us? And you hear a voice go, yeah, just like that. That was one of the creepiest things. But we caught all kinds of stuff. We saw orbs, and yeah, it was crazy. It was a crazy, but nothing bad, nothing, evil.
Okay. So that was the next question from me. What was the mood like in the home? Was there, like, sometimes you might feel anxious, or it's just you're angry for no reason? Was there anything like that?
Other than the typical fighting, that couples do, and of course, that had nothing to do with why we got divorced. But yeah, I mean, we were kind of unnerved at times, but none of us were like really like scared, like we got to get the hell out of here. We were just like, hey, I saw this today, or this happened today, or the shower came on twice a day, or the sink came on twice a day in the kitchen, or my son called me one day. I was at work. He was about to go to the Marines, and so he was there at the house. He had just graduated high school, and he called me and he said that he was sitting on the couch and he saw this something moving out of the right corner of his eye, and he looked up and there was like this smoky figure standing there, and it squatted down, and he could see it like reach out with its finger and touch him on his arm. He said it touched him on his arm, and all the hairs on his arm just stood up and it disappeared. We had doors open by themselves, not just like, you slam one door and the other door kind of opens. The doorknob turns and opens,
Yeah, that's not the wind or
Yeah,
pressure in the house.
Yeah, and my oldest, she called me one day and was like, yeah, that she was sitting on the couch watching TV, and for where she was at, she could see her room and down the hall, and it was in the daytime. So when that door opens, you could see the light coming through it. She said she heard the doorknob turn, she saw it crack open, and when she was looking at that light coming through, she saw a figure poke its head like through that crack and look out at her.
Great.
But nothing was scary. Believe it or not, like I said, it was kind of unnerving, but it wasn't like terrifying.
Okay.
I had a cousin come do some work on the house. He had to do some remodeling on the master bath in the hallway, and he was talking, He had some of my other cousins there, and he kept looking over to his right at my other cousin, who was like holding his arms, like, dude, what are you doing to me? He's like, I'm not doing anything. I'm standing over here. So he's talking again, and he looks at my cousin. He goes, you keep touching me. And he goes, dude, I'm way over here. I'm not even nowhere near you. So my cousin Manuel, he gets in the corner of the kitchen so where he can see everyone. And by this time, me and my family, we're like looking at each other. We're like, we know something's going on there, right? So he walks across the kitchen. He grabs me by the arm and he squeezes my forearm really, really tight. He's like, this is what it feels like, you know? So we started telling him all the stuff about the house. And, the next morning he came in, they were starting to do all the work. And he holds up his forearm and he shows me he's got these four finger bruises on his forearm from somebody squeezing his arm. And I think it's because he was the one that was going to be doing the remodeling they probably didn't want him touching anything. And like I said, it was scary, but it wasn't like terrifying. It was unnerving. Yeah, yeah.
Hey, Joe, it's Chris here. How you been?
I'm doing good, man. Sorry, I'm rattling off at the mouth, man.
Oh, that's
no.
good. I think we both had our own share of ghost experiences too.
Yeah,
we know the whole thing about it. The one thing we're curious about was your latest outing.
Oh yeah.
Where you guys got surrounded by a Sasquatch. I was pretty fascinated by that. I heard it on another podcast.
Yeah.
Let's go talk about it. We're just the whole idea behind interviewing fellow researchers, I guess, or investigators, I guess, is to compare notes between like different parts of the country. Like
Right.
you're down in Texas, right?
Right.
And we're up here in Ontario, obviously, and chew the fat, I guess, with other investigators, compare notes, I guess, and I think that's a great idea. So, Joe, why don't you tell us about your latest experience there?
Yeah. So this is an area close to 3 years now. About this time, actually, my friend Walter called me, and he got in touch through Will Jevning. Will called me and was like, "Hey, there's a guy in your area that had an encounter. Go talk to him." Me and Walter met up. He took me down to this place, and he told me, he said the creature he saw was like 9.5 feet tall. And I was like, okay, that's kind of tall for Texas, adrenaline's pumping, it's at nighttime. But he said there's a white spot on the tree, which is a fungus. So we measure 9.5 feet tall. That's where he saw the head at, right? So that's become our research area. And we found quite a bit of stuff going on out there. I mean, we have found branches that were broken, not just broken, but twisted like a dish rag, at the 10, 12 feet level, right? Of course, people say all the time it could be a windstorm, which why just that one branch in the whole forest,
Yeah.
is broken. An ice storm. It was in the middle of summer here, so there's no ice storm here in Texas. That's one every 50 years anyway. There was certainly not a hurricane at that time. And if there was, why that one tree again?
Yeah.
So, and this is the same area where he had his encounter. We have found trees that were snapped off, like 4 or 5 inch trees in diameter. I guess they're still saplings, I don't know, but they're still pretty tall. And they're snapped off at the 8, 9 foot level. And where the tops are, we don't know. We found trees like that laying on the ground, and we're like, okay, where did this tree come from? It's nowhere. None of the other trees around here are damaged. We found a hog with his head ripped off in that same area. No stab wounds, no arrow wounds, no bullet wounds. I had a guy tell me that there was he knew people that used snares and they could snap their heads off, and I'm like, I don't know. This thing was ripped off, and there was like trauma, like on the nape. You know how you grab a puppy? So like on the back of that hog's neck. Yeah, there was like trauma there. There was like a lot of hair missing, and you could just tell that skin had been pulled really, really taut. So I think he grabbed that hog and snapped. It was like a big 250 pound hog. It wasn't a small hog.
And it wasn't consumed in any way.
No, just the head gone. Where the head was at, no idea. Not a drop of blood. So we think it was probably moved there. We found prints there in that same area, in that same creek. We've had audio. Some of the audio that I sent you, that the tree breaks. Those were from that area. Well, I guess they're tree breaks. Almost sounds like bark being ripped off too. Um, the wood knocks I sent you was from a different area, but and the footprints were in a different area too. That 8-inch footprint that I sent you. So this has become a primary area that we've come to. We've got a lot of good vocals from that area, and I know Chris, you mentioned the cow, right? And that's what Walter had heard that night. He had his sighting.
Yeah, the last time we were out in the Madoc location there, we were getting a weird cow mooing sounds out in the field
Right.
right next to us. There's no farm
I
there.
don't think there's
Yeah.
any farm there. No.
No, 5 miles is the closest farm.
Yeah.
And
And
we
we've
could
actually
hear-
heard, yeah, and we've actually heard mumbling out there. Like, I don't know if people want to call it chatter or not, but it was definitely some kind of mumbling.
Yeah,
We've
we
heard
heard
that a couple of times, So
sort of like the Moorhead stuff.
yeah, kind of, but not really. But I mean, yeah, kind of. I guess more
Same
yes
idea.
than no. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. And I've heard that like a raw raw. I've heard that exact same kind of voice. I thought I was being followed by a hog, so I kept getting closer to the lake where I was at, trying to walk along the bank. But then I got to a point where I couldn't walk on the bank anymore because it ended and it was going into the forest. So again, I thought I was listening to a hog, so I pulled my gun out and I racked a round in it. And when I racked that round, that's when I heard the roar, roar, roar. It was just like that. I was like, oh shoot,
Yeah.
maybe it's not a hog. So, but yeah, so that areas are become one of the primary areas that we research now. And we went there, I guess, man, maybe a month and a half now ago. And we didn't have the intention of really going out there. Walter works nights, so he was really, really tired and sleepy. He was, falling asleep at the camp, so I didn't want to push it. And so we get out there. We went to a couple of spots first, but man, there were people out there. People never go to these areas that we go to. And so he was like, well, you want to go to my area? I'm like, yeah, we can go out there. And it's a pretty good little drive from where we were at, like a 25-minute drive. So we go to that area. Of course, there's nobody there. And it's a long dirt road. It's like a 10-minute drive down this little dirt road. And it's barely wide enough for one vehicle at that. So we get down there. And there's like a little spot you can turn around when you get to the dead end. And he parks right next to the wood line. I mean, I open the door and the tree is right there. I can grab a tree, right? And I kind of made fun of him for that later. I said, dude, you parked right next to the tree. Why didn't you park in the middle of the road, Got out, and I heard a movement come from that side of the passenger side vehicle where I came out, and it moved. It sounded like a truck going through the forest. And it was just so much brush being displaced. It wasn't a hog or a deer, or certainly anything small like a possum or raccoon or even bobcat, a lot of woods was being displaced, a lot of brush, but it stopped, made no vocals, nothing at all. And that kind of threw me for a loop because at this point, it may have been 15 feet away from me, and it stopped. And I was like, holy crap, right? So I closed the door and I'm walking, my back is pretty much to the truck, and I'm walking towards the tailgate, and I'm making that little round right there around behind the bumper. And by this time, Walter's coming around. He's coming back to. He was like, "Dude, you hear that?" I'm like, "Yeah, I hear it. I'm right, right here, right next to me." And then at that time, we heard movement coming from I would say our 2 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
We'll say the passenger door is our 12 o'clock. From our 2 o'clock, we heard movement, definite movement there too. And again, nothing running away. So me and Walter are kind of backing up, and now we're like towards the middle of this little dirt road. Back towards the 10 o'clock, we hear more movement, right? And I'm like, holy crap, these things are everywhere tonight. And that's what's going through my mind. I'm not saying it out loud, but that's what I'm thinking of, right? So there's a creek right there where he had his sighting, but you got to walk down this little bank to get to the creek. He goes, I want to go over there. I'm like, dude, no, stay right here. Stay right here. And he's like, no, I'm going to go to that creek. I want to go to the creek. And I said, well, you can go. I'm going to stay up here. I'm going to, keep an eye out up here. He's like, yeah, just watch my back. But at this point, I still got the whole forest to my back, the rest of it on the other side of the road. So I got a flashlight, which we never use our flashlights. But at this point, I was like, the hell with it. These lights are coming on, right? So we had our flashlights on, and I'm trying to keep an eye on him and trying to watch what's going on behind us. And as he gets closer to that creek, like I said, there's a little embankment. There's almost like a little opening there. I don't know if it's a game trail or not, but there's like a little opening where he can walk down. As he starts walking down that way, we hear this tongue popping. What I tell everyone is that what it reminded me of was those aliens from the movie Signs, the way they would talk.
Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of. And when we heard that, Walter, I see him turn around. He looks at me. And his eyes are this big, right?
Mhm.
And he's like pointing that way, and I'm like pointing that way too, shaking my head like, yeah, I hear it. And at that point, and I still haven't asked Walter because we just haven't really talked since then. He works nights, he works long hours, and but it sounded like to me something got thrown to the trees, but it could have been some movement also. And he was closer to that than I was. But at that same time, I also heard this thud coming more towards what I would say our 9 o'clock is on the road. And it sounded like something heavy hit the road. It sounded like someone got like a basketball sized rock and slammed it on the ground. Right.
Wow.
And at that point, I thought that was a distraction, like something got thrown to distract us. Right.
Yeah.
But when I start replaying it in my mind, whatever hit the road, it didn't hit and roll, or tumble. Like if it was
Yeah.
like a big rock or log and somebody threw it, it would have rolled and I would have heard it. It was just one solid thud and that was it. So as we have been thinking about it and processing it, but dude, I'm getting shaky telling you guys again. As I process it, I think one actually jumped across the road. That's what I think that thud was.
Okay.
And so at this point, Walter's like, well, I'm going to go down further down this creek, right? And I'm still like, I'm like shaking, because there's a lot of stuff going on and nothing is running away.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten blown at, we hadn't got grunted at, hadn't got snorted at, no kind of vocals at all from any other animal to let us know back off or no stomping, right? Just nothing. And so he's going down this creek and there's like a culvert there that's covered up by sand. And so he's like, I'm going to go down this way. So, okay, I'm going to go down this way. He's going towards the left. I'm going towards the right. As I'm going down towards the right side and I get close to the bank, I hear just like light splashing in the water, nothing heavy. And at that point, it kind of freaked me out too, because it was like, this thing is trying to be quiet. It's not trying to make big splashing noises. And again, it's not running away. It's like two or three, like, psh, psh, just like gentle splashing. Any other animal, I think, would have bolted,
Yeah.
but it went under the culvert and I could hear it moving on the bank and it went under the culvert. And at that point, Walter's coming up from the other side back onto the road going, no, 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 because they're down there. They're down there. He says, I can hear them down there. They sound like they're panicked because it sounds like, chaos is going on down there. I said, let's get the hell out of here. We got to go. Because at this point, I was like, they were definitely regrouping. That's what I felt. They were reorganizing and regrouping. And they were either getting ready to go on the defensive, which isn't a good thing, or the offensive, which is definitely not a good thing. And we got in the truck and we took off. And I'm telling you, man, from getting from the end of his truck to that passenger side truck, being so close to that woods, that was like the longest 7 or 8 feet I ever had to walk in my life. Yeah. And we talked a little bit on the way out, but by the time we got to the main road, I mean, we were quiet. And we drove all the way back another 25 minutes to our original camp. I mean, we didn't talk to each other at all. We get to the camp, we sit down, I get the fire started back up again. And he's like, what the hell was that? And I said, I don't know. And then we start talking and we're like stepping over each other's conversation, trying to figure out what was going on and stuff. But he had to wind up leaving. He had something happen at his house, and his friend called him and said, you got to come home. And so he had wind up having to go home, and I wind up staying there. So we didn't really talk. We talked later on during that week, but he was at work, and like I said, he works nights. So we haven't. The only thing I really want clarification on is if something was thrown or if something was walking through the woods. When I heard that tongue pop, but at the same time I heard that tongue pop, or we heard a tongue pop, that's when we heard something get thrown or was walking or movement, and then that's when I heard the thud. Whether or not that tongue pop was like giving orders or giving directions, hey, move or do this, I'm not 100% sure, but I kind of feel that it was like, okay, do it. Now we're moving. That was just the impression I got, and it was pretty frightening. It was, and on the way out, one of the things I always pride myself on is staying calm and cool. And on the way out, Walter told me, he goes, dude, you were calm. He goes, man, how do you stay so calm? I said, dude, I wasn't calm. I was freaking out. On the outside, it may look calm, but on the inside, I mean, and I could actually feel myself trembling, and even I told myself, I don't know how I kept that flashlight so still, because I was trying to watch him and trying to watch what was going on behind me and on the road. And it was pretty scary. And like I said, man, I think all those years of holding the flashlight from my dad finally paid off. So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, the whole thing lasted 3 minutes. I mean, maybe 4 at the absolute most, but probably closer to 3 minutes. And That's the most shook up I had ever been. And like I said, because whatever it was didn't run away. It didn't leave us, you know.
Yeah.
And it certainly made no vocals other than that tongue pop. And if you've ever been around, I don't know if you guys have been around hogs, but you know, them things just walking around are breathing hard and snorting, you know.
Yeah.
And if you get near them, they will bluff charge you. If not, they will charge you. And they're actually pretty dangerous down here in Texas. They've been known to kill people. We've had a lady killed last summer, I believe.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Well, we don't really have a whole lot of them out here, but they're making their way up here, unfortunately.
Yeah, they're dangerous. You got to really watch them. And you know, deer. If you've been around deer, man, they'll snort, they'll blow, they'll stomp.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. Whatever it was out in these woods, they didn't care one single bit. And like I said, I just think they were regrouping, and the incident at that culvert was probably what made them say, okay, you know, we've had enough of these two idiots. You know.
Well, talk about luck. You didn't even have to look for them. They were right there before you.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm open to hear anybody else's suggestions of what else it could have been.
Yeah.
You know. But given this area and all the stuff we've gotten out of there, the audio, the tree breaks, the hogs, the footprints that we have found there, you know, and actually the way Walter found this location was a complete accident. They were out, and some guy drives up, and he sees them on the side of the road near this little bridge, and he's like, "What are you guys doing out here?" And it's, you know, we're just out here looking around. He goes, "Oh, you guys looking for Bigfoot? That's what you're doing. You're looking for Bigfoot." He goes, "Come on, I'll take you to him." So he takes them down this road, and that's when they have their experience. Who this guy was, nobody knows. We have our ideas or our opinions of who he was, but you know, we'll let the audience decide. You know what I mean by that. But yeah, we have an idea on who he was, because let's just say he kind of fit the description of what usually happens.
Is it like a DNR guy or something?
No,
Man in Black.
No. Yeah,
type.
Yeah, that's what I'm leaning towards. And we were actually out there one day too, and these two guys roll up in this truck, and they were like, "What are you guys doing out here?" And I'm like, "You know, it's public land out there." I'm like, "No, we're just out here." And I'm like, "What are you doing out here?" He goes, "Oh, we came here to check out our deer feeder." I said, "Oh, okay." He drives off and he leaves, and Walter goes, "Hey, did you notice anything about those guys?" I said, "Other than they were dressed the same." You know, and he's like, "No." He goes, "What did they say they were doing out here?" And I said, "They were checking on their deer feeders." He goes, "Did you notice the bed of their truck?" And I said, "No." He goes, "It was empty."
Mm-hmm.
You go out check on your deer feeder. Are you gonna go out there empty-handed?
Yeah. No.
You know?
No, you're not.
Yeah, that was interesting too. Yeah, he had no feed with him, but he's gonna go check on his deer feeder.
Okay, government. You have a lot of run-ins with these guys. You sort of alluded to it in the last two stories here, but
Yeah. Well, people down there have. There's a few stories, you know. I could tell you, but that's just kind of rumor at this point.
yeah, I understand. Yeah,
You know, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to get myself in trouble. Also, you know, but I'll tell you off the air what, you know, a story that I'm very, very familiar with, and I know for sure that it happened. You know,
I'd love to hear it. Okay, we're done.
Yeah. Okay, guys. You know.
well, just to let you know, they're on our end now. We're getting this secondhand right from another Sasquatch investigation group or research group where they were discussing, I guess, a Sasquatch sighting. It was a photograph taken up in the Temagami area, which is where we're heading up to next summer. That's what we're expecting to do. And it was regarding this particular photograph that was taken. So apparently senior biologists and what have you were talking with conservation officers and what have you regarding how to deal with this sort of subject. And from what we understood, there has always been a lot of helicopter traffic up in this particular part of the woods where the sighting took place, and you know, the old black helicopters, if you will. So,
Right.
So yeah, we have our Department of Natural Resources, or DNR, or MNR as we call them. There has been reports sent into them, but of course, when you go and ask them about these reports under Freedom of Information or what have you, it's like, well, we got nothing here for you.
Yeah.
Well, such a date. This report was filed. Same thing with our Ontario Provincial Police, and nothing sort of came up.
We can't find that file.
They can't find the file. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
But whether cover up or not, or just incompetence, or they just don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. And I think the employees of the parks down here know what's going on. We were out. There was 2 occasions we were out like at 12, like at midnight, and then another occasion that was like 1 or 2 in the morning, and we got rolled up on by a park ranger. And these guys, they get off at the end of the day at 5, 6 o'clock or whatever. Why did he roll up on us? Like that. But he knew what we were doing. He asked anyway. We're standing out there. We had a parabolic mic in our hand, and he's like, "What are you guys doing?" I just told him, "We're out here listening to the sounds of nature." I said, "Okay," But where we were at on both occasions, we're back in the middle of the woods, out in the middle of nowhere. So how did he know we were back there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it
And
makes
like when is this a park you're in? Like the
Sam Houston National Forest. Yeah.
Well, they must take your plate before you drive off into the park. They must
I
record
don't
it.
know, because it's an open area. Like, you can just drive in.
Okay.
You don't have to go check in anywhere. And I've heard, rumors of ground sensors and cameras where people have actually found cameras back in the woods. And I imagine that's for poachers. I'm not sure. But I'm not like game cameras. I'm talking about cameras that are way high, and they got like the 3 or 4 pointing in different directions,
Oh wow.
And, I imagine that probably is to a certain point for poachers, but who knows what else they're checking out or trying to keep up with.
Now, has there been ever any reports of people being injured or killed or
Yeah, there's been
by
a
the
couple of
Bigfoot? Or go ahead.
There's been a couple of instances where people have gone missing, and we don't know what happened to them, or at least no one ever determines what's happened to them. Campers, hunters. One area that we researched that area because 2 guys came up missing. And whatever happened to them, we don't know. But that's one of the areas that we do research, and we get some pretty good vocals out of. And yeah, it's a pretty good little area. But there was another girl that was attacked, and they claimed that it was attacked. It was a bear attack. We don't have black bear down here, so
What about dogman reports?
There's been some instances of dogman, not a lot. I can only think right now off the top of my head 2 dogman sightings in Sam Houston. Further up north, like another hour north of Sam Houston, is the Davy Crockett. That's got quite a few sightings of dogman up there. And then, of course, in the hill country, which is like between Austin and San Antonio, a lot of dogman sightings there. But in the Sam Houston, no. I've been to the Davy Crockett quite a few times, never had any kind of experience there. So I still would like to go, but when I get time off and I'm able to do something, I want to go for the sure thing. So the Sam Houston's a sure thing, almost guaranteed anyway. You're not going to get something every time you go out there, but I've never had any luck in the Davy Crockett. So
Yeah.
it's just kind of hard for me to say. I just go to Davy Crockett for a couple of days and just wind up camping, which nothing wrong with camping. I love camping,
Me too.
But if I get some time off, I like to get some audio.
What about cameras? Do you ever set up your own trail cameras or mount anything to your vehicle? Or?
Yeah, we have trail cams, and we set them out in different areas. I'm not sure we have anything out there right now. I don't think we have anything, but we'll leave cameras out there, And I've got in my group, well, not necessarily the JRG, but my little friend group that we have, I know that there's cameras out there almost constantly, So
Yeah, some of them are hard to see. I've even on my own property where we deer hunt back home. I've gone out to walk around, have a look at stuff, and then turn around. Oh, there's a camera right behind me, and I walked right past it. On my way back, I could see it. So
yeah, we have some people down in South Texas, and they've got like 250 acres. It's like different families. I mean, it's all the same family, but like uncles and cousins, they all own the land, but they all share it, and they all hunt on it. And they've had experiences out there, and they've had trouble with these creatures. And they set up trail cams, and they had like 15 or 20 cameras on that whole property that they had set out. And when they went to go check them, all the lenses were poked out.
Really?
Yeah.
I've heard of cameras being turned or gone missing. I've never heard of that.
Right. Yeah.
Lens being poked out.
And like I said, this is private property, and the family wouldn't do that to each other. They don't. There's no animosity there, or all they ever say is, "Hey, if you're gonna come on my property, let me know." Just so I know that you're not a stranger. But strangers, it's out in the middle of nowhere. Also, it's a long drive to get to their property. I don't think any poachers are going to come out there and, you go on private property as a poacher, you're really asking for trouble.
Yeah. Well, you don't want to get shot, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So we've had some weird stuff, and not just from our end, but also from the witnesses that we talk to. And that's what I like doing, is talking to witnesses the most. And
So on that
getting,
property, are they hearing any gunfire off in the distance at all? Has that ever
no,
occurred?
no.
Okay, so then there's no poaching.
Yeah. They've never heard any gunshots or.
Now, getting back to the missing people, I don't know. There was this one video that was, I believe you can find on YouTube, put up by Bob Garrett regarding a torn up camp.
Mhm.
Does that name ring a bell with you?
Yeah, I know exactly what. Yeah, we researched that area quite a bit too. We've been out. I don't think I've been researched that area in a couple of years, but a bunch of guys actually still go out there and research that area. Yeah.
What
Yeah,
place is that?
it's in the Sam Houston Forest.
Oh, the Sam Houston Forest. Okay.
Yeah,
And
it's not far from where I do my main research. I mean, it's maybe 2 miles from that area.
They sound pretty aggressive down there.
They're pretty aggressive. They are very aggressive down here. There's not the friendly forest people down here. I'll tell you that much. They're not out here playing flutes and singing kumbaya with people.
Yeah.
They don't want you around. They'll let you know real quick.
Right on.
Have you experienced any rock throwing on you?
Twice. We went out there. A friend of mine named Jacob. He had a real good dogman story, and that's how we met. I contacted him, and we became really good friends. We're still good friends to this day. And it was me, him, my buddy Armando, and then my son Jacob. We went out to the Sam Houston, and we went to our main area that we camp at, and we went out in the woods walking around. And at the end of the night, we came back to the truck. So we went during the week because he was here in town for a few days, so we wanted to meet up. And we went to the Sam Houston Forest, and we went, showed him some spots, and we came back to the main area. And as we're putting up our stuff, I hear something hit the ground, and I thought one of the guys dropped a flashlight. And Armando and Jacob were like, "Hey, look, come here, come here." I'm like, "What's up?" And there's this rock about the size of a lime or lemon laying on the ground in the middle of all of us. And he's like, "This rock just came in out of nowhere and it landed right in the middle of our trucks. It didn't hit anybody." And so we stayed there a little bit longer just to kind of talk, and because no one knew what direction it came from. Like I said, we all had our backs turned and putting our stuff in from the truck, back in our trucks. And Jacob goes, "I shine, I shine." And we look up, and I saw these 2 reddish orange light eyeballs turn towards the forest and go back inside the forest and back into the wood line. So I'm like, well, we're going to stay here a little bit longer. We're going to check it out. And I asked Jacob what he saw, and Jake's like, well, I saw these 2 orange eyes looking at us. And when I called you guys, it turned around, and that's when I looked up, and I just saw them kind of turn around too. So we're standing there, we're talking, and I see the eye shine again. But this time it's at ground level. It's the same, those 2 reddish oranges eyeballs at ground level. And when I point, I shine, it disappears. It goes away. So they didn't get to see it, but I saw it. And that was pretty interesting.
Would you say they're self-illuminating, or did you guys have some lights on in the camp?
I would say this just eye shine, regular eye shine. It was actually pretty bright that night. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't know about the self-illuminating stuff. I've seen eye shine twice on that occasion. Then on the occasion I was going down, it's called 1375, which is the main road that splits the Sam Houston Forest. It's a paved road, and I looked off to my right or to my left, and I saw these 2 whitish blue eyes walking through the forest, and there were 2 front-facing eyes, going forward into through the woods, and I was just like, holy crap, But I was driving too fast to really stop and look and get a good look at it. It was dark at that. So.
Yeah, we had Richard Soul on our podcast there, I think last year, and we got chatting about the possibility of Sasquatch or Bigfoot having bioluminescence abilities in their eyes. The reason why we had him on is because I experienced self-illuminating eyes. Came right up, probably about 80, 90 yards away, was standing there looking at us through. And we had no lights out. We blacked out the whole camp. And the only thing we're catching it on was through our night vision cameras. We were able to pick up both with the naked eye and also with the night vision camera, the glowing eye, single glowing eye. Now, prior to them coming in, I noticed, I thought I could have sworn somebody was coming through the woods with a flashlight on, like an old school filament bulb flashlight that's probably about a 50% depleted D-cell battery. So it looked kind of dim and sort of like a golden color. And I could have sworn that was somebody like walking through the woods. And it it was self-illuminating. It was totally black. So I don't, that's all I can say is like,
Yeah.
whether some people call it eye glow or some people call it eye shine. Personally, from my experience, I have seen the eye shine, both reflecting light back, and also um, like a bioluminescence, if you will. Just going on from my experience, I seen a little bit of both. So I think they have an ability. I think
Okay.
that's why we're just kicking,
No, yeah.
notes
And I
around
listen
back
to
and forth.
everyone's story and everyone's experiences. I don't
Yeah,
discount,
exactly.
anything anyone tells me because,
Mhm.
especially since I wasn't there, who am I to say, "Hey, Chris, that didn't happen to you"?
I know,
Yeah.
I know.
I mean, that would be dishonest of me to say that because here I am. I call myself a researcher, right? But then I'm telling you, that's not what happened to you. Whether I think it is bioluminescent or not, I still got to file that away.
Yeah,
Because I hear that all the time. Well, not all
until
the time, but I've heard it plenty
until
of
you
times.
see it for yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah,
or somebody comes up with a better explanation for it.
yeah, exactly. But same thing with the dog man. It's like I'm still on the fence with that. Other than I've seen tracks here and there that can't be really explained. Like the stride length is too long, and there's no overlapping pads. It's almost looks like a bipedal dog in a sense. Or I wouldn't say dog because the prints are way too big.
Right.
But at the same time, I know Sasquatch is real because I've seen him multiple occasions. But a dog man, with me, it's like I have to see it to believe it.
Yeah, I'm like that
Right.
too.
And you get the different types of dogman too. Some look more pointier snouts, some not. So it makes you wonder if some of these dogmans aren't actually more primate-ish. More of a primate. Because you got the baboons, you've got the different kind of primates with this, with muzzles. So
Yeah, you got possibly a different subspecies of some
yeah,
sort.
and I mean,
Yeah.
think of a giant baboon. Wouldn't that thing look like a werewolf?
You
Yeah.
never know.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, yeah. You never know. Like I said, I don't discount what anybody saw. One of the strangest things I've ever heard was from a truck driver. He was going down a road, and it was, I can't remember if Virginia or Tennessee, but it was one of those states. He saw this giant wolf walking on 2 feet, on the side of the road, and he was so tall that when he passed it, the hood of his head came up just above the hood of his truck, 18-wheeler. And when he passed it, he looked in his mirror, his side mirror, to see what the hell it was. It was a naked man.
Hmm.
So what happened there? And the guy's not crazy. He's not crazy. So he has no reason to reach out and tell me that and just to lie to me. So
Hmm.
he saw something, and that's it's just one of those things, man. It's like I said, I'm not going to discount his story or tell him that that's not what happened. You were probably sleepy or tired. Guy's been driving trucks his whole life.
Yeah.
And that's the one story he's got that's crazy.
Yeah, I wish we could hear more from railroad operators.
Yeah,
They must see them crossing the tracks.
Yeah.
And just don't
Yes.
say a word.
yeah, and there's plenty of sightings of them near railroad too. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's where we're investigating a couple times this summer. We got a vocal from down the railroad tracks as we crossed. So
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
I think railroad tracks and power lines and pipelines are a good area to check out.
Yeah. We deploying everything from. Well, we're looking at maybe getting the trail cameras with the IR flash disconnected. We're going to mod these out, and we've tried any. Well, we got this
So,
Project Overwatch for that matter.
right.
With the
So, like
thermal
one thing
drone.
you guys, I don't know if you guys ever tried. You guys ever tried the glow sticks?
Yes.
Yeah. What about
What do you recommend with them?
hanging them either near your recorders or near your trail cams?
good idea.
Yeah. I just use fishing line, and I like to use like the red ones or the blue ones. They'll seem to light up better in the dark. But something that I haven't tried yet, which I always tell myself I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it this time, but I never do. Are like the jingle bells. Hang some jingle bells out there too.
Good
So you
idea.
can-
Well, we were talking wind chimes.
yeah, wind chimes. Yeah. But you could buy like a whole bag of jingle bells. $3 on Amazon. So
We tried something similar to that over at one location. We got a bunch of these big rat traps, and what we do is pre-drill the holes in these with drywall screws, and we'd screw them in a tree,
okay.
and we'll have it so that it would be tripped with some fishing line, and we'd hang a glow stick in it. So as soon as one of the rat traps go, we'll notice a glowing light in a particular area, so we know that. Okay, something tripped it to the east, something tripped it to the north, because we have different colored glow sticks set up in a different array, covering all the trails in obvious possible directions of travel, possibly from what we found as far as tracks and evidence.
Right.
So we had that covered there, but they still managed to outsmart it. Either they seen us put it up, or they could see the fishing line, which we couldn't see. So they must have better eyesight than us.
Yeah.
They went. We had it set up in a direction of travel, and sure enough, that's the direction of travel they came. They never touched it. They managed to circumvent that little rat trap. They wouldn't have hit that tripwire.
Yeah.
So they're sneaky, and they can see it, or I don't know.
It's like what you said. I think they see us all the time, and we just don't see them. I had a recorder, and there was a log laying on the ground, and I put the recorder up underneath the log, but I also covered it with a piece of bark. I wanted to protect it in case it rained, or even just from the regular dew, from the morning dew. Next morning, I went and picked it up, and when I moved that piece of bark, my recorder, which I had left laying face up, was now face down, and the back was all dirty. So I said, something picked it up, So I looked at it, cleaned it off, and I turned it on. Only about like 3 hours of worth of recording had recorded on it, and so I hit play, and I was fast forwarding it all the way to the end, and right at the end, you could hear it getting fumbled with, and then it shuts off. And then even before that, you could also hear some footsteps, 2 or 3 footsteps.
Wow.
And then you hear it get fumbled with and get turned on. I'm not saying they know how to turn it off, but I think it got fumbled with, and you get the power button.
Yeah, just push any button, really.
Yeah. At that point, it's probably what he was
pushing
doing.
them until.
Yeah. And then he set it back under there, Yeah. So that was one of the more interesting things that ever happened to me. Somebody did that.
What about night vision? Sorry to cut you off there. What about night vision cameras there, Joe? Do you have any gear like that?
Yeah, we have night vision and we have infrared. Yeah, and we just haven't picked anything up with it. And, but I know people who have had pretty good luck with it, and they've got some pretty good images with that. And I really want to get a thermal. So I think a thermal would probably be a little bit better, but just haven't been able to get one yet.
Yeah, they're a little pricey, I guess, with inflation now. I picked one up for $700 up here in Canada. Now it's well over $900 now due to inflation.
Right.
And it's not really the newest technology either.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I've noticed that it wasn't like necessarily great technology for $800. Yeah.
But you can definitely pick up something.
Yeah.
With it, but
yeah. Like my infrared camera, it's a really good camera. I really like it, and it records. So
any particular brand you use?
I don't remember the brand. My son bought it for me for my birthday last year. So, but it's really good. I just want to buy some more infrared lights to kind of stand up so I can get a wider.
I hear you.
Yeah, a wider view, because it's just like straight ahead.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you need almost like a floodlight system there.
Yeah, which they do sell.
Yeah, I've seen them. Now that's in battery operated.
Yeah.
Run some long cables.
Yeah, I know. We were thinking the same thing, using a jack Reebox or something like that.
Yeah,
an exterior power supply, and we're almost thinking of using those LTS cameras there, the ones that run off a cellular network, and just have it set up remotely. But we're going to put it super high in a tree, like almost like 40 feet up in the air if you can. That way, nothing will screw with it, and have it solar powered.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's what one of my buddies has right now. He's got it set up. It's high in the tree, and we went looking for it, and we couldn't find it. And then he went back like a month later, and he found it because we went out there, and he's like, "Hey, go to this area and get my camera." So we said, "Okay." So we went out there, and we couldn't find the damn thing. It had been out there for like 2 months already. I told him we can't find it. So then he wound up going out there, and he knew where it was at, so he found it. But he didn't get anything on that camera. That camera he bought was like a $600 camera.
Oh yeah, they're not cheap either. We're thinking up all sorts of crazy ideas, trying to think outside the box and everything too.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we can think outside the box as much as possible. But the problem is having the cash to support the ideas. That's the only problem. Generally, we're all pretty much self-funded.
Yeah, we got our project. We got our Project Overwatch going, and that's a crowd-funded campaign to get some thermal. Well, we have a couple cameras we've been researching on, but some of these cameras are quite pricey. A thermal capable drone, and we want to be able to eventually get 3, but I think 1 would be a good start.
Yeah, Walter has a drone, but it's not thermal, but it helps out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It helps out a lot for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a couple of us that have drones. I don't have my own, but Chris does, and we fly it all the time when we go out.
Yeah, we separate. And I cover Daryl as he's walking into the research site and just watches
Watch me get
360, if you will, just to see what happens. Maybe we catch something getting thrown at him or chucked at him and what have you.
Oh, they tear people's heads off too.
Yeah, so that way I can just drive off.
Yeah, that night that happened to me and Walter, we get back to the camp and we're kind of just talking amongst ourselves, like I said. And then he looks at me and goes, "Dude," he goes, "if you hadn't gone to that other side of that culvert," he goes, "I would have kept on walking." He goes, "I would have walked inside or got close enough for them to grab me." He's like, "I really think you saved my life. When I went to the other side and I spooked whatever it was, right?" He's like, "I really think you saved my life." I said, "Dude, save your life. You the one that had the keys, man."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably need the keys to lock the door at least.
Yeah, that was a spooky night, man. Spooky night.
So we got to find these old Vietnam era vibration sensors they used to use on the Ho Chi Minh Trail, where
Right.
a chipmunk can walk across it. If you set it so it'll pick up a human-sized footprint or a footfall, and have that trigger a trail camera would be ideal if we can find that technology out there. I don't know if you can buy them on eBay or not.
I don't know. That's interesting. Yeah, I wonder if we can make it that.
Yeah, We'll probably know what we're talking about if you talk to him.
Yeah, that's
Tell him
interesting.
to rustle some up for us.
Yeah, you probably know where to get it.
Yeah. Speaking of Will, there, like, how many reports of, do they usually, does Will share a lot of info with you guys?
Yeah, like privately, yeah, he shares a lot of stuff with us. A lot of vocals. We get so much vocals, it's crazy. I mean, you've heard I don't know if you guys have ever heard it yourselves, but I know you've certainly heard reports of sound like women being killed. Dude, it's crazy. Some of these audios, man, it's like make the hair stand up on you, man. I ain't even got no damn hair. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
You
But
grew
yeah,
some for that.
Yeah, then we get some really crazy. I don't want to say crazy like unbelievable, like it's not true, but crazy in the sense of like the encounters that people have. Like I said, I don't know why people can sit here and say that these things are the friendly forest giants, and they're not. They are not the friendly forest people. They don't want you around. And that's one thing I try to tell people. People are like, I get this bad stigma in the Bigfoot world that that I'm like a non-believer in that, but it's not that I don't believe it, but it's on the stories that I've heard people tell me, attacks, actual physical attacks,
Well, isn't East Texas known for a little bit more violent behavior?
Yeah, East Texas, but I know of some attacks in Louisiana and in New Mexico.
Now, there has been a lot of missing people happen in Ontario, and there's one particular case that does sort of stick out, and that's up around the Temagami area. And they suspect it was something bigger than a Bigfoot. It's like a Genesqua, which is supposed to be like a real bad attitude when it comes to anything human. So, and they're freaking huge. So I believe that's what I saw when it crossed the road, because all I seen was like great big huge shoulders and just a little nub for a head as it was taking off, and it just jumped up probably about a 20-foot cliff right in front of me as I was driving by. That's not here nor there. That's the only case that we can honestly say that there's a good possibility somebody was killed by one of those up in this particular area that we're going to go and check out next year. But overall, as far as me and you go, as all the locations we've went to, we only had to like rack our gun one time, but overall they sort of kept their distance and they weren't overly violent with us.
We went back the second time. We didn't even take our rifles.
Yeah, we didn't even take any firearms. And we did it because we didn't know what we were dealing with at that time.
Right.
And they were close. They came right up to the house. Like it was when we were inside, you were sleeping.
Yeah, later on that night, they got that close we could smell them. That's how close they were.
The main reason why any of us take out firearms just for the other animals.
Yeah, anything else.
Yeah, you're not gonna knock one of these things down unless you got a freaking elephant gun, So
yeah, an elephant gun is exactly what you need.
375 H&H, we can try.
Bring my BB gun. Shoot him in the eye. Take his eye out.
What caliber should we be carrying out there in Texas if we come down to visit you?
I don't know, man. I don't know. What's that one? That 4570? Is that what that one is?
Yeah, that's a good Bigfoot gun.
Yeah, that's a pretty big rifle. Yeah, I've seen that. I've actually shot one of those. Those guys that down in Beeville, that's why they got one. Down in South Texas, that's the main reason why they got it, for protection.
Oh, is that right? Eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can probably drop a moose with that, no problem.
Yeah. Oh, it's a big bullet too. It's almost like a 50 caliber, really.
Yeah. That sounds. We're not allowed to own guns up here anymore.
Well, It's getting
Come on down to
stricter.
Texas, man. Come on down to Texas.
Might have to become immigrants.
We'll just go down to Mexico, come up through the border.
Yeah, I'm thinking of doing that myself.
They probably send you back.
Well, if they don't, they'll give me more money
Yeah.
Oh, true.
for free health care. So
Yeah, there you go.
What else? What else we not covering here?
Is there anything else you plan to do? Any other
Like
tricks?
anything you have up your sleeve
Methods?
you guys might want to try out? Or?
not that I can think of right off the bat, but I'm always open to try new things. And if I hear one thing I did, someone told me to try was dog whistle, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I tried that, and it was me and two of my other friends. We were out, and I got the dog whistle out, and I blew it like 4 or 5 times, and we heard this growl come right back at us, and it was so loud. It was the weirdest growl I ever heard because it was so loud. You would have think that would have filled up the forest, but it did. It was like it went from point A to point B. It was like projected at us.
Yeah.
Don't do that again.
No kidding.
Like throwing your voice. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I've told this story 100 times, but you're exactly right. Almost like throwing your voice. Yeah, but it was so loud, you would have thought it would have filled up the forest, but it didn't. It was like it was projected right at us. It was a loud growl. It sounded like like an African lion. Whatever it was, it didn't like that dog whistle, so I didn't blow it anymore.
Yeah. That might be something we can try.
Yeah. Right.
Just
Now,
to see what happens. Not
yeah, I still have it, and I still take it out with me. It's in my gear bag, so I'm not against not trying it again.
We tried just about everything, all sorts of different weird calls and everything. Like I'd be out turkey.
Try the dog whistle.
Yeah, I'll try that out.
Yeah.
We tried anything I'd bring a turkey box call and everything. I seem to bring something in. Of course, I'm in a pop-up dog blind where I can't see from behind me, but I hear creepy loud footsteps coming up behind me, and I said, "Just out here hunting," just with a loud voice, and then everything just shuts up. Like the whole forest just goes totally quiet, and then off it goes again. Walks away. So I'll leave you some pepperettes on the fence post.
Yeah. One of my friends had this big speaker, a Bluetooth speaker.
Yes.
We set it out in the woods, and we came back to camp, and we were playing like wounded animal noises. We played those Ohio screams on it. It was loud, but nothing ever happened. We were like, "Holy cow, that sounds kind of freaky."
I was going to ask you about that too. We've tried that too. Is like we play different kind of soft music, flute, harp music, also the sound of kids playing in a playground and stuff like that. You can download offline. We put that on. I can't say for sure whether that gained any results, but I think the big result was live music around the fire. We had our First Nation drummer, elder there. He was sitting around the fire singing and drumming. That seemed to bring him in. So that was the night of the eye glow incident there. So
one interesting thing.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was gonna say I had a friend of mine. He has access to primate urine and bedding.
Oh,
so that's what he does too. He takes that out, but he hasn't had any luck with that either.
Probably smells different to them.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Yeah, but you think it would draw them in, like hey, somebody's marking our territory.
Yeah, but it's not.
But maybe it just doesn't have the pheromones that I don't know.
Maybe a female during her menstrual cycle, like spraying urine around. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
You think it'd bring them in to see at least. Okay, it's these idiots.
Yeah, curiosity. Yeah.
No, it's not even anything. It's just these idiots putting pee in the woods.
Yeah, pretty much.
At least bring them in.
Maybe it'll scare that bear away. Hard to say. I don't know. As far as it, I thought we'd just, kick some ideas around and try and make an interesting show now that we're not going to be out in the woods this winter unless we get a fresh trackway somewhere, fly a drone up, but that's about it.
Yeah. Next weekend, I'm going to some private property here in Texas. So they've been having some issues out there. So I'm going to go check that out.
Oh, well.
Oh, is this the one where you sent me the picture of the tree X?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got a picture of it here.
Is that we were having a close look at it as best we could on our phone? Are they root side up?
I don't remember. I need to ask, but I know that they had put their feeder out there the week prior, and when they came back, it was there. So it wasn't there. And this is their own private property. They walk that area all the time, and they have these creatures on their property. They've been paced, followed, screamed at, stuff thrown at them, looking in their windows, stuff like that. Yeah.
And this will be on a future podcast for you, Beyond the Woodline.
I don't know if I've asked them if they want to come on. They haven't said yes or no, but yeah, I don't know yet.
Well, we're having difficulty with that too. A lot of people tell us some stuff and they don't want to.
Oh yeah, yeah. We've had people, especially like for Will's show. Yeah. I'll come on the show. We usually record on Sundays. We'll ask them on Saturday, "Hey, you still good to go?" "Yeah, I'm good to go." Then Sunday, nothing.
Yeah, they just sort of disappear.
Yeah, and that always makes me wonder why. Did someone talk to them? Someone get to them, or they just chicken out?
Right.
Because they always seem so enthusiastic.
Maybe they're afraid of something happening afterwards. Of course, that's one of the possibilities. Oh, look, I'm being followed by a black car.
Yeah, or somebody got a phone call.
Yeah.
Like I said, when we end the show, I'll tell you. Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
We'll let you know too. Well, and I appreciated Joe for coming on, and this I guess is going to be part of our winter series, I guess, until springtime when everything thaws out, so we can get back out again.
Yeah, heck yeah.
So maybe we can get Will on sometime, since you probably maybe put a bug in his ear, maybe.
Oh yeah, dude, he'll do it.
Oh yeah,
Talk about some of his methods for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a no bullshit type of guy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, why don't you give yourself one last plug there? Beyond the Woodline.
Yeah, Beyond the Woodline, my podcast. We cover everything and anything from paranormal, UFOs, different cryptids. I have people on there from remote viewing, psychic mediums, tarot card readers, witchcraft. I cover the whole gambit.
I watched your one video with the gentleman that had the spirit boxes or the voice boxes.
Oh yeah, that was pretty cool.
And that was interesting. The one thing that really shook me was it came across saying, "I know I'm dead."
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Some know they're dead.
Yeah. And if you're down here in Texas and you have a Bigfoot sighting, let me know. It's jrg.hillcountry@gmail.com.
All right, Joe, always a pleasure talking to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for having me on. I do appreciate it. Hopefully we can do it again.
Wow, hopefully you can come up and visit us sometime.
Yeah, actually, I am going to go to Ontario with my friends that I told you that are coming down here. And the end of February, they're going to come down here. We're going to go out and do some Bigfoot, some paranormal stuff. They're from Black Moon. They're in Ontario. So
Black Moon. I have to look that up.
Yeah. And they invited me up there in Ontario, a place to go check out some stuff. So
Well,
I
cool.
don't remember if I ever texted you the location that they told me that they were at where they had Bigfoot activity. But
No, I don't know. I don't think so.
okay. Yeah, I need to find out from them, and I'll let you know.
We'll follow up for sure.
Yeah, cool.
Good stuff, Joe. Thanks again.
Thank you. I do appreciate it, man.
Don't take off there because we want to hear that story.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you for listening to Hastings County Sasquatch. This is Chris and Daryl signing.